Hey, you guys, Kaosy Umeh here, aka Attorney Know It All. So, you guys, today I'm here to talk to you about prenups, and particularly the prenups in Jessica Alba's marriages and Jessica Simpson's marriages. So, both Jessica Simpson and Jessica Alba are currently getting divorced. We're in early 2025, and this has just been announced. So, the thing is, Jessica Simpson has a prenup. This will be her second marriage, and this will be her second divorce. Whereas I believe Jessica Alba, this is her first marriage, and this is her first divorce. So both have children. Both are married to these men, and for whatever the reason is, both have chosen to get divorced. But both of them will have very different outcomes in this divorce. At least that's what I believe. And the main reason I say this is because during their marriages, both of them had either, in Jessica Alba's case, she formed her business in 2012 after she got married in 2008. And in Jessica Simpson's case, she formed her business before her marriage. However, during her marriage, she lost majority control of her business and had to rebuy majority control of her business after her marriage. So I believe because of these things, they're very alike. They've both been married for over 10 years. They both have business interests that will have to be decided upon their divorce. So let's go into it. Let's start with Jessica Simpson. As it says here, she's getting divorced for her second time. That sucks. And this time around, she has kids, so that's also going to be impacted. Um, and I'm not really going to go into the story because I don't believe the story is really all that relevant, except to know that her husband is a former NFL player. So we are talking about somebody who's also financially well off. So in her case, when she gets divorced, her husband is going to be entitled to whatever it is the prenup says he's entitled to. And again, because this is her second marriage, she was actually a little bit smarter, so she formed a prenup. And it's my guess that her prenup probably protects her company because, as I said, she had her company before she got married. So I'm sure whoever drafted her prenups took into account not just that business she had at the time, but what would happen if she chose to expand that business or if she chose to begin a new business. So I'm sure her business is going to be protected in this prenup. I'm sure her husband is going to leave whatever he came in, and she's going to leave out the divorce for whatever she came into the marriage with. So I think she's going to be a little bit more protected in her divorce, and she'll be well off in her divorce. The hard part for her divorce is going to be custody. If they're on good terms, custody is not that hard to arrange. But if they're not on speaking terms, or if there's some bad blood between her and her soon-to-be ex, then getting a custody agreement is going to be the hardest part of her divorce. So I think her divorce is going to be relatively simple and straightforward. And I'm comparing this especially to Jessica Alba. So I'm going to direct your attention here. Jessica Alba's estranged husband moves out into luxury bachelor pad amid divorce from actress. So in Jessica Alba's case, I think again this is her first marriage. I could be wrong there. You can fact check me at the bottom, but I believe this was her first marriage. So this is going to be her first divorce. And at the time she got married, unless I'm wrong, she did not create a prenup. She married her husband. I believe he was also. I believe he's an actor. No, I think he's a director, an assistant director. I forget what movies he assisted in. I believe he's an assistant director. So now that she's getting divorced, she also has to worry about what to do, what's going to happen in custody and child supports. But she had an extra worry, and she had an added worry to Jessica Simpson, and her case is going to be her business. Jessica Alba got married in 2008, but she formed her business, I believe was Honest, the Honest brand. She formed that in 2012. So technically, if they were in Maryland, that business would be marital property. And because it was formed during their marriage, her husband would be entitled to 50% of the, 50% of the business. Again, Maryland is not what's it called, a contribution state, or Maryland is a equity state. So we try to do what's equitable for both parties. And equitable does not mean necessarily equal, but the court does look into the fact that she wouldn't be able to have started this business, or the business might not have been as successful if she didn't have a husband or a spouse helping her along with the business. And when I say helping her along, it doesn't necessarily mean he has to have been in the office every day, but it could mean that he was at home taking care of the kids, holding down the house, making sure that things were okay for her at home so that she could focus on her business. The courts takes that part of a spouse's actions into consideration when they're considering equitable distribution. I don't know what's going on with my mouth today and my words, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So her husband's name is Cash Warren, it seems like. So I think when he walks away from this divorce with Jessica Alba, he's going to be entitled to 50% of whatever it is she owns. At least that's going to be the default setting if they're in Maryland. And then the attorneys will have to establish why. I mean, Jessica Alba's attorney will have to establish why maybe he shouldn't get all 50%. He should only get maybe 10% or 20% or 40% or 45% or whatever it is. But if they were in Maryland, I would say right now that we're looking at a man who is entitled to 50% of whatever this business is. Because you have to think about it. If this was reversed, if they were not a celebrity couple and this was reversed and the wife had stayed home and taking care of the home, she was a homemaker, while husband went to work every day and made a business and made money, when they're getting divorced, it would only be fair that the wife who's been out of the workplace is able to um, get some of that money in which she helped build and by staying home and taking care of the kids. He got to work without worrying about the kids because she was home taking care of them. So if this was reversed, the courts will look at it that way. And again, in this case, they will also look at it this way if they're in Maryland, simply because it shouldn't matter if it was the wife who stayed home or if it was the husband who stayed home. At the end of the day, you do get a benefit from being married and owning a business because you do get somebody who, especially when one party isn't working, because somebody is staying at home, taking care of a majority of the home labor, the home burdens, the domestic chores, and the domestic labor, basically. And the courts does believe that you should be rewarded for that part. You also helped contribute to the success of the business by staying home and doing those domestic labors. So here we go. Both parties again divorced. I am sad that this is happening because divorce is never great. Let's be honest. It hurts. Not only does it hurt the parties who are in the middle of it because that heartbreak is going to be something you have to get over, but more importantly, it hurts the children. You're changing their whole life. They go from seeing mommy and daddy every single day whenever they need to having a schedule as to, oh, you can only see mommy on these days, you can only see daddy on these days. It sucks. But I will say here, I read in one of the articles that Jessica Alba and her husband are doing a conscious uncoupling. So that interested me because the first time I ever saw that was in the Gwyneth Paltrow divorce. And I really thought that was a phrase that nobody was ever going to use again. But I have to say that since her divorce and her unconscious uncoupling, her conscious uncoupling, I have seen more and more parties use that phrase, which to me, it's a funny phrase because to me, in Maryland, this is what we would call a mutual consent divorce. All it basically means is that you and your soon-to-be spouse have sat down together. You guys have discussed your lives together and what will be fair to each party as you separate. What would be fair to you financially, but also what would be fair to your kids. And in Maryland, if you did this, you would break down that agreement you two come to into a marital separation agreement. And that marital separation agreement will be filed with the courts in your request for a divorce, and you'd ask for the court to grant you a mutual consent divorce, which means that neither party will be fighting the other over details of the divorce. You both agree you're going your separate ways. You both agree you're going your separate ways in peace, and you've done what is best for yourselves and for your children and for whatever properties you have in the mix. So I find it interesting that that's not being called a conscious uncoupling when it's still just a regular divorce. It's mostly just a non-contested divorce. So either way, I thought that was an interesting background for those of you who are interested in the mutual consent divorce. That's basically what it is, a conscientious uncoupling. You guys actually sit down, talk about all the issues, write it out, and try to make sure that it's fair to both sides. So I hope that was helpful. That's just something that came out and struck me today as I was going through the internet. And I wanted to share with you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Please don't forget to leave a comment below. And you can also leave a comment about anything you would like me to discuss in the future. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me with the channel, and it helps me know what you guys are interested in, so I can see what stories you guys clicked on in the past, to know what sort of stories I should bring up in the future. Okay, I hope that was really helpful again. Have a great day. Ciao.